Radio. I'm Annette McCoy, and it's always my great pleasure to be with you, and especially at this time of the month because Janet Hickox joins me, and we're going to be talking about what the stars have to say about March. It always fascinates me, Janet, because we're very fortunate, aren't we, to have people like you who study stars, who are fascinated by it, who then share with us what you believe to be what the stars are telling you.
It's like reading a map.
Right.
Reading a map of the stars, as above, so below, as within, as without, or as without, so within, or something, that gives us this idea that what is happening up in the stars or in the sky above has a lot to do with who we are and what we're experiencing down here. But it isn't like a fated or a one-on-one sort of correlation. It's kind of archetypal. And that's a big word that I've been really coming to understand lately, is the archetypal energy. So we have planets, and for example, they have archetypes, and an archetype is really just a sort of character analysis, a sort of way that somebody or something is behaving that then has its match in humanity. So like we could take any planet. Let's pick Neptune. And Neptune is the archetype of higher spiritual functioning and sort of the places that we don't see clearly, the things that confuse us. And so the archetype is that of trying to clear up confusion or to see things from a higher perspective. And whatever's going on with Neptune, and I chose Neptune because it is a co-ruler of the sign of Pisces, where we have a lot of energy today. And so we have this archetype of all of the things that are associated with Neptune playing out in our lives. And that might be imagination. It could be psychic or intuitive sensitivity. It could be emotional sensitivity. It could be any number of things that are the archetypes presented to us via Pisces and Neptune.
Now, what I failed to do before you went into all of that was to encourage people to come and watch us via Angel Heart Radio Facebook page, because there they can ask questions. And we always love the interaction, don't we?
Yes, I love questions.
So people, please go over there and fire away. Right, Janet. Now, you mentioned Pisces before we started the show. That wonderful sign, star sign.
Yes, indeed, because we have a lot of energy in Pisces right now with Jupiter and the new moon. So we've had the sun and the moon in a conjunction there. And as well, Neptune is there. So we have what we call a stellium in astrology, which is sort of just a preponderance of planets, right? Several different archetypes coming together in a sign that show us something that is happening, or the potential for things to happen in each one of our lives, or, collectively as well. And because Pisces is, I always, there's something magical and mystical, miraculous even in the sign of Pisces that lies in the potential of the sign of Pisces. Because when we can get through all of our human fears and our human feelings of lack or low self-esteem or low worthiness, and more. I mean, there's a lot of shadowy type energies that are deep in the unconscious, right? There's the one fish that's swimming deep in the unconscious. And then there's the other fish that's swimming in the light of the day, or in the super conscious, or the conscious mind. And when we can move through all of the stuff that lies in the depths, then our whole lives take on much more mystical, magical inclinations, things happening as if by magic, right? Miracles and things like that. So there's a lot of that being offered up at the moment, but there's also all of the opposite: dissatisfaction, deception, victimhood, right? The victim energies, addictions and disappointments and all of that are there and just as likely to be coming up to the surface right now. Yay.
Well, that's certainly happening, isn't it? Deception, my goodness me.
Right. And our inability sometimes to tease through what's true and what's real versus what's not real. And of course, that seems to be one of the ever present motifs or themes in Pisces, is real versus not real, or the real versus the ideal. And Pisces struggles with that, right? In their beautiful minds, in the energy of the beautiful mind of Pisces is all of this beautiful, creative, imaginative, psychic, sensitive energy. And then it comes crashing into the reality of this world where mystical, magical, wondrous stuff happens rarely, or so we see, because it's, it runs into that reality. And I'm going to say, I said that way, but it's not what I really mean, because for someone like me, I love seeing the magic. I will look for it. If I don't see it easily, it's there somewhere. I have to dig it up. And for a lot of people, though, the real stifles the magical, and that's, I guess, maybe one of the struggles that we have, going through right now. Yeah, we've got some real stuff that's seemingly ugly and no one really understands. At least I don't know if you do, but I don't understand what the heck is going on over there in Russia and Ukraine. I don't get it. It like sort of came out of nowhere, and motivations and all of that. What's going on? And it adds to the confusion, for all of us here, just coming out of this whole COVID thing. Right? It's like we're just getting our feet back underneath us, and what the heck are you trying to do now? So confusion, right?
I mean, I keep thinking of the Desiderata, and while I'm talking about that, I'd like to welcome Debbie BT and Chilia. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. She's very excited because she's got to see a live show. So,
who was that?
Cilia?
Cilia?
Chilia.
I don't know, but welcome. It's great to have you with us live.
Oh, it's Sheila.
Sheila. Oh, okay. Hi, Sheila. So we love it when the live people, when they join us. I know a lot of people probably hear us as podcast later, or on another day even. So it's always nice to have live people being here.
Well, it certainly is. And Sheila, I do apologize. I take things literally. I must admit, it took me a long time to understand the spelling of Siobhan. Because the Gaelic spell, it's like, oh my goodness, really? And Awen's another one. It's like war, because I'm literal.
That's all right.
Sheila's having a laugh. Good on you, Sheila.
Good. Laugh, laugh,
everybody else is too.
Yeah, no doubt.
Getting back to the Desiderata, Janet, it says there, despite the chaos, or what appears to be chaos, everything is as it is meant to be. And I must admit that has been my mantra, at least for the last 3 years, if not before that. So I tend to hang on to that and trust that what I don't understand, and for me, and all I can do is to live in love and support as much as I can myself and people around me.
Absolutely. And remember that it all seems so real, but in reality, is it really real, right? Or is it just this mass play, this creation of imagination cast out onto a screen that makes it feel so real? And there are a lot of, high spiritual knowledgeable people and books out there that talk about this whole idea of, this is such a Piscean theme, of whether or not what we are really experiencing is reality, or is it a choice that we've made? Did we choose? I don't even quite know how to frame this, but if you think of it as a play, right? All of life is a play, and we're all playing a role within the play. Like today, the part of Janet will be played by Janet Hickox. But today, Annette will be, and today they're playing the role of radio broadcasters, right? Is it something like that, where we're just entering into a role that's available for us to play a part in? And if that's the case, then we can ad lib our way through it. We can change the script, right? I don't know if the director would be so happy, but hey, right? What if the props start falling down around us and we have to do something completely on the spur of the moment? And that's kind of, I think, what we're seeing right now, is that there are these choices that we're making in every moment about how we want to respond to the things that are showing up in the world or in our personal lives, and then seeing the reflection of that back at us in the outer world through our friends, our relationships, or even, through the bigger outer world, such as, countries or governments and things like that. So it bears thinking about, as, Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac wheel. It's the ending. And it's an ending sign that leads us to a new beginning with the spring equinox or your fall equinox upon us. It's a time for us to be considering, how do we want to show up now? Right? Because we're only a few weeks away from Aries.
Right. And I'm completely ignorant, Janet, when it comes to the star signs. I know my own and a little bit about that, but when it comes to the others, I smile and think,
just
yes,
smile and nod.
Something I could study one day.
Yeah,
so I delight in what you share every month. And I know too, if I was awake in the middle of the night or I chose to listen afterwards, you have shows during the week where you're constantly discussing what's going on with life and how we can put our best foot forward.
Yes, Mondays and Fridays for sure. Today I was also on air a couple of times a month. I come on Wednesdays, either to interview an interesting guest, or because today we were talking about what is going on with March. Because March is really an extraordinary month. As we, saw today, the new moon, a very powerful and very energetic new moon. And if we look at just, we started out by talking about archetypes. And if we talk about the archetype of the new moon, we're joining together the ego, the sun, the solar self, with the inner self, the moon. And when we join them together, we have a moment where we can be in wholeness, right? With both of our ego, outer selves, and our inner spirit selves. And that, of course, happened much earlier this morning, but here we are now with all of the potential that entails, which is all about, where do we want to go? Who do we want to be? What do we want to experience? So it's a time now of setting intentions for the things that we want to bring into being. So it's a very powerful time of the month, of every month, when we have this opportunity to join those two parts of ourselves in starting or initiating something new. And what's the initiating energy about is about Pisces, right? And so imagination. And in this new moon, it wasn't just the sun and the moon that were together, it was also Jupiter. And Jupiter was less than 2 full degrees away from the sun and the moon in this. And that is a conjunction in astrology. We give a couple of degrees on either side of the exact degree. It's called an orb. And it is still when the planets are very activated together, right? They're activated together. And Jupiter is the bigger version of the wise person, the wiseness that we have, the wisdom that we carry. And he brings a sort of need for expansion and growth, and how do we want to move forward in a way that is coming from that higher self. And so you join his wisdom in with the sun and the moon, and you get an archetype of really claiming power, claiming our good, claiming our dream, what is our big dream, and then embellishing it with the details from the imagination that Pisces brings to us. So today was a really good day for us to have that intention. What is that intention? It might be about who you want to be, what you want to create, some art project that you want to do, some remodeling, some reimagination of yourself or of something in your life. And today was that day to set that intention for that.
So it's an exciting day.
It really is kind of exciting. I mean, I always think the energy of the new moon coming together like they do is exciting, whatever sign it's in. This one just happens to be extraordinarily creative at the same time. And the new moon, when we look at the degrees of the moon, they are both the sun and moon at 12 degrees of Pisces today. But we have two other sets of planets that are also occupying the same degrees today. Mercury and Saturn were both at 19 degrees of Aquarius. And then Pluto, Venus, and Mars, all three at 27 degrees of Capricorn. And that's rare. It is rare to have three sets of exact conjunctions happening during a new moon. Part of it is the new moon, then Venus and Pluto and Mars, and then Mercury and Saturn. So all of the inner planets, so the inner planets are the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, are all married to an outer planet during this day, right? So the sun and moon kind of married to Jupiter, Mercury with Saturn, and Mars and Venus with Pluto. So again, we kind of see this eloquent story of our inner selves, the inner planets, or our human selves coming together with the collective selves. So again, we're bringing them together, making it whole. You know, one of the big themes in Pisces, oneness. Oneness. And that's kind of what this whole theme looks like today. It's about bringing us back together.
And isn't that really what's been going on, I believe, for the last couple of years? It's giving us the opportunity to come together, to realize that no matter where we are in this world or beyond, we are all one.
Yeah. And a lot of people wiser than me have talked about this for a very long time. And it can be a subject that makes people just shake their heads and, you know, with wondering like, how is that ever going to happen? You've got 7 and some billion people on a planet. How do we ever come to oneness? And I think we do that by recognizing we were never not one. We've always been one, right? We've always been one. That, you know, if you have a quilt, it's one quilt, but it's made up of what? Different pieces, maybe different shapes, different colors that were woven together or sewn together to make one quilt. And humanity is that quilt, right? We're that oneness, that quilt with all of these little different pieces, you know, the little Annettes, the little Janets, the little Debbies and Sheilas that are out there living out their own little part of the bigger tapestry or quilt of oneness. And it's extraordinary when you look at that. If we were to look at a quilt and, you know, we wouldn't say, oh, let's cut out that piece over there, that Ukraine, let's cut that out, right? Or let's cut out all the black colors in here because we don't like the color black. Or, you know, let's cut out the shape of the star because, oh, you know, the star might mean something to some people that we don't like. We wouldn't do it because it's the coming together of all of those things that make it the final product, the quilt or the tapestry. But yet in our day-to-day lives in humanity, what are we doing? We're what do they call that? Cancel culture right now. Where, you know, we cancel out the parts we don't like, oh, you said something I don't like, you're out of my life.
Please.
Cut. Right, you're done. Chop.
Well, it's interesting because Julianne, who has joined us, believes that you're beautiful words, and Carol is saying oneness, unity, consciousness, which is exactly what we're talking about. And it brings me to that point saying that when the power of love overtakes the love of power, there will be peace.
Indeed. And isn't it interesting that the planet of power is in a conjunction with both the masculine and the feminine principles today and tomorrow and the next day, right? They're close together for a while. And when you know, Mars and Venus and Pluto, those are the three planets we're talking about there, which they're not in Pisces, they're in Capricorn, a completely different energy. But, you know, Capricorn energy is sort of like the rules of the road, right? It stitches together the values and how it is we're going to play out those values with one another. So you could think of Capricorn as the holder of the commandments, right? Thou shalt not kill, right? Or whatever. And I don't mean that it's specifically those commandments, but the rules of the road. How are we going to get along in society? And I think the unique opportunity that we have sort of initiating right now is that we can create new rules of the road, right? We can create new rules of society. We can create an empowerment in our rules, our legislations, our laws that we haven't probably even thought of yet in terms of what's possible. And so that's kind of woven into this whole idea of unity. And, you know, there's a whole host of other beautiful energies in Pisces too. How about tolerance? How about acceptance? How about unconditional love? How about compassion? Right? And when we have Jupiter in Pisces, what about generosity and largesse, right? Magnanimity. So we have, you know, we have on one hand, you know, these planets that are giving us the okay to start some higher spiritual function within our humanity. And on the other hand, these other three planets giving us the okay to create some new rules to live by within that higher functioning spirituality of humanity. And then we just have Mercury and Saturn coming together today too, to give us focus ability, right? To give us the need to build a framework to support it all, to change our minds, right? The Mercury there rules the mind. So it's kind of an extraordinary day. And we got to meet today, Annette.
Yes, timing. And for me, Janet, there's never a mistake. I mean, this is incredibly powerful, isn't it? And how interesting. That,
you know, somebody this morning in my show said, I think it was Tam, she said that, you know, the Chinese what is it? May you live in interesting times or something like that. And of course, we live in interesting times. In fact, one of the transits of the day in this new moon is so rare, it won't happen again for another couple of centuries. And that's the Pluto, Mars, and Venus coming together. Yet we live in that time when those three came together. Like, we'd have to go back. How many pairs of grandparents would we have to go back to have had them live that experience? So it's extraordinary, right? May you live in interesting times.
Yes.
I think
I find an extraordinary time. And I think, how fortunate are we that we've chosen to be here on this planet at this time.
And, you know, part of that extraordinary experience is that we have to also face those demons that we have inside of us, right? The parts of us that, the way I framed it this morning was, what can we heal inside of us, or what can we heal during this period of time that springs from the shadows of Piscean energy? And one of them was about the victim mind, right? Think about how powerful the victim energy is on the planet. Even in your own life, right? That you could be the victim. Somebody says something you didn't like, and then you become defeated, or you stop living the way that you wanted to live because you thought perhaps maybe they wouldn't accept you, or they wouldn't love you anymore, or that something, it wasn't acceptable to wear green on Saturdays or something like that, right? And how many things like that happen where we become defeated by that victim mind? Well, that's something that could definitely needs to be healed during this period of time. What about addictions, right? Addictions. This is something that can be healed during this time, right? I'm not just speaking either about alcohol or drugs or gambling or any of that. What about our addiction to technology, right? Our phones, or our need to always, be on social media, and all of those things that really make our lives much more complex than they need to be. So that's another part of the healing that we can affect during this transit. And what about disappointments? Right? Disappointments. What can we heal? What I've dealt with a couple of clients already today where that was a big theme in their lives right now, disappointment. And that takes the life, the love, the juiciness, the joy out of things. So disappointment. And I think, when it does play into the shadowy sort of victimy energies, but disappointment is a big one, right? Because we think our lives didn't turn out the way that we had planned. That relationship ended, and that wasn't what we planned. So we get disappointed. The book that I wanted to write didn't get written. We can go on and on. Right. Or, we get off air from the show and we go, darn it, we didn't say that, right? We didn't bring that up. So we have disappointment in the field right now as well. And I would say that's something that we need to heal, and is also very much healable during this period of time. Deception. Where are we deceiving ourselves? Deception takes on all kinds of faces, right? It could be self-deception when we are deceiving ourselves, or when others around us are deceiving us, or when we're being deceived by people in power, our governments, or our leaders, or other countries' leaders. Delusion is another one. I didn't even think about that one until just now, but delusion is another Piscean theme, where we're caught up in some mad illusion, which can then turn into delusion. And next thing you know, we're all making decisions based off of nothing real. Right? So a lot of possibilities here, this time period for healing on the planet. And healing in our own personal lives. Let me say, it starts with you, right? It starts absolutely within your own life. And you don't have the power to change Putin's mind, or to change, the minds of other people, but you can change your own mind, right? You can work through whatever part of you might have been in resonance with that energy. And you could say, like, I am totally not into that, that is not something I'm in resonance with, but it's showing up in our collective outer world. So somewhere along the line, we created that. Now, what do we do to heal it? Well, we go to the high side, right? We go to the high side. So we start asking more of ourselves in terms of the vision that we have, or the words that we say, or the places we spend our money, or the places we spend our time, who we spend our time with. and we change the world that way, because we're the ones that are affecting the change. We cannot count on anybody else out there to change. So we have to do it. So we have to look in and say into our own victim mind. We have to look into our own, where do I resonate with disappointment, right? Where do I resonate with, well, there's lots of complexes here, by the way. We have the victim mind, but we can also have that martyr, savior, general, I'm going to, lead you guys out of turmoil or trouble. And, there's a lot of complexes that are a part of this. But none of that gets healed unless we can find it within ourselves and take an honest look at, where am I part of the problem, or where am I in the creation of this problem, and change it, heal it.
We can change ourselves. Some people say they're unable to do that. I believe, yes, we can change ourselves. I have learned, Janet, it's possible for me to change other people. And when I first got into self-development, and I guess different forms of healing, it was, I wanted to save the world. And I came up very short, realizing work on yourself and let the ripple effect do its thing.
The funny thing is that you can change the world. You just can't do it the way that you think, by going out there and saving the world. You save the world by going within and working through all of the things that are within you that feel like victim, or feel like I'm not saved, or the world isn't safe, or we could go on and on about all the different things that we have that we're holding within us. And it's all, these are common themes. Guilt and shame also come up around this, but whatever part of that victim shield of energy that you might be carrying is what you can deal with. That's what your job is. And that adds to the change ability of the collective, or of humanity, life on the planet.
Right. That be the change we want to see. And Julianne is saying we all rule our own life.
Definitely. Definitely.
Quite true. To be able to take control of ourselves and realize that that's all we have control over.
Right. And when we look at Pisces energy, it's a mutable energy. It is able to change. But here's the thing: it's a water sign, and if you've ever watched water in a storm, right, it starts to whip up a little. It takes a while. It takes a lot of energy to whip up a body of water into chaos, or to change. Likewise, it takes time for that water to come back to stillness. So while Piscean energy is very willing to change, it's mutable by nature, adaptable by nature, it's also the ruler of the big depths of things. And depths, the deeper things are, the more energy it takes to get it in motion, and then the longer it takes to get it to come back to stillness or to rest. So while other signs like Gemini is a mutable sign, it's quick, right? And it's air can change easily, but water doesn't change as easy or as quick. Its willingness to change is there. It just takes a little bit longer. So we also have to have patience with ourselves and with others. Just because today we have the intention today that we're going to let go of, victimhood in our lives, the universe is likely going to bring many different things to you to experience where you are holding on to that. And it's going to take some time to make that change, but it's such a worthy undertaking that I suggest we all do it. Just be willing. Just be willing to hang in there, and to, go through whatever you need to within yourself to make that change, because it's going to change the outer world as well.
Yes. And for us to understand that that's how we can impact the world, by working on ourselves.
Yes.
We say, oh, something's happening on the other side of the world. We're unable to do something about that. And in lots of cases, we are unable to act directly on that. However, by working on ourselves, as you said earlier, then that ripple effect happens. And that's how we can change.
Yeah.
And also by working together, Janet, within our families, within our communities. I think life has become so busy, especially in the Western world. We have tended to lose the contact with the grassroots. How often do we spend time with our neighbours? How often do we get to be with our families?
Right. And I think, you said a phrase there that's really important in the context of where we are now historically, and that's grassroots movements. It is people power. And of course, that has nothing really to do with Pisces, except that, people are Piscean, and that we live on a planet that, has people. But what, the greater energies of our times are taking us into the power that humanity has when we come together and we say no more, or we say this is our value, this is how we want this to be, this is how we want our world to look. This is it is you're never going to get all 7 billion people on the same side, right? Unless we were facing some kind of alien impact. But even then, you're still going to have people that are kind of, going to do their own thing. They're going to look at things differently. And we're not looking for oneness as in sameness, because oneness and sameness are not the same word. They don't even mean the same thing. But we are looking at our hearts all holding the space for one another to move through whatever the things are that challenge us. To, I would say if I talk to every person on this planet, I don't think anybody would tell me they don't want to live, laugh, or love. Right? I just can't even imagine the most dourest person saying, no, I don't want to live. No, I don't want to laugh. No, I don't want love. If they're deluded, if they say something like that, right? Because it's a genuine part of humanity to want to come together and be together. And as we go through, furthering into the age of Aquarius, that idea of brotherhood, sisterhood, coming together, moving as a group of individuals, right? A group of individuals with a like purpose. We saw it, for the last couple of years with different movements, irregardless of what you think about the movement. There were many movements that were brought out by a common interest, something that we all held, or the various people, members of that group held, and they affected change. Even if the change is slower in happening, there's probably not many people on the planet right now that don't know what Black Lives Matters means, or where that comes from, or how ready we are to let go of that idea of racism, or the Me Too movement. And these things, they're great examples of how when people have a common goal, they can come together and they can move mountains. But now let's apply that to how do we create then groups of people that are furthering love or peace or prosperity on the planet, right? Let's do a I don't even know what we could call it, right? It's not about who matters. It's about, well, whatever the movement is, let's just create peace.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Peace and prosperity matter. So when enough people align themselves with these higher principles, if you will, and higher as in, more from spirit, the more we are going to see that change in our planet, right? And it affects everything. right? From it, just a change of heart about how you feel about another person who might be down on their luck or who is struggling can also crack your heart wide open to nature and how, we're trampling on our mother and on the animals and things like that. So things begin to open up all around, not just so opening your heart to one thing has the tendency to open up your hearts to all things.
Right.
So again, very Piscean theme there of opening up the heart. The joyful states that we get into, joy itself, bliss, ecstasy, all of that universal loving energy, all Piscean energy, all Piscean themes. Joy as a state of being, not emotion, not an emotion, it's a state of being. That's what Pisces brings us, that state, that universal state, universal consciousness, the idea that we're part of a much bigger picture than a tapestry than what we thought. And then we also have faith. We have all these other higher spiritual powers, surrender, trust, faith that come through Pisces.
It really is a beautiful sign.
Yes. I mean, it has its problems, as any sign does, right? Specifically, we talked about, for example, victim attitudes and things like that. It was funny, we had a conversation this morning because I said, with the in the body, Pisces rules the feet. And I thought, I don't know how that came about. And then someone in the audience said, well, because Pisces is floating somewhere up here and we're on a physical planet, that the feet need to be what grounds them to the earth, right? They have to bring the feet down. And so there's that, right? The whole idea of bringing those higher principles, those higher consciousnesses into this physical planet, bringing them and anchoring here in the real, in the physical world. So, it's great to know that bliss and joy is there, but it's a completely different story if it's just all up here as some kind of concept versus being brought into the expression of the world or expression in your own life. So, feet. I almost want to
ourselves.
I almost want to reach up like a balloon and say, "Oh, come back here, come back down, right? Be here, be now, be in the moment." Right. So, but Pisces also rules the lymphatic system, and in the body, the lymph system is responsible for our immunity. So you kind of see that maybe there's the potential for poisoning or toxicities that come in order for an immune system to work. It has to be healthy enough to respond to the toxins. So people find themselves often with Piscean energy prominent in their charts or in a prominent transit like this, reacting physically to the world, to the environment they're in, to foods they can normally eat, and today they can't for whatever reason that is. It could just be the overload in the system of toxins and poisons that have been building up. And, those are the physical manifestations because they're bodily, but where did they begin, right? They didn't begin in the physical body. It began somewhere out here in the energetic realm, maybe in the mental, maybe in the emotional, maybe in the spiritual realm, and gives us the opportunity, the body then giving us the opportunity to see where there might be some things that we need to work with. And, enjoining us to look deeper, look into the deep pool. What's in that ocean? It's teeming with life, but it's all under the surface and you don't see it. So if you looked under, if you looked into the depths, what stares back at you?
Indeed, what is going on out there?
Right? Or in here, what's going on in here that is participating in a bigger expression of it in the outer world. So just reeling it in, right? Bringing it home. And remembering too that this is a sign that rules our psychic sensitivities or intuition, right? How we know, knowingness even. And where did we go wrong when we started listening more to the logical mind, to the scientific mind even, and let go of our body's wisdom or our spiritual wisdom? How do we bring all of that back together? Pisces can do that for us as well.
All
And
right.
some of you out there may be thinking, but I'm not a Pisces. This doesn't matter to me, right? Annea's a Pisces. Her birthday's coming up. I know
That's
that.
right.
Her birthday's the
Mhm.
same day as my sister's. So we have this idea that, oh, this doesn't matter to me because I'm not a Pisces. But everybody has Pisces, a little bit of Pisces somewhere in them, because we are all of the archetypes. We all hold these archetypes within us. If I were to look at it, if this chart that I'm looking at that I drew up, well, you can't see it because of the background. There we go. I have to bring it right in front of my face.
Mhm.
When we pull up a chart of a person, a map of when they were born, what the sky looked like when they were born, all 12 signs are there, right? And some signs may not have any planets in it, but it doesn't mean you're missing that. It doesn't mean just because you don't have a planet in Pisces that you don't have any Pisces to worry about. Not true, because it is covering an area of your chart, by a house, we would call it, where the Piscean themes are going to play out. So when you have transiting planets like you do today, where you have Neptune and Jupiter and the sun and the moon transiting through Pisces, it's lighting up some part of your chart, some part of your life, right?
Mhm.
It might be lighting up the first house in this chart. If this were a person, it's the first house. So there's some personal viewpoint or personal experience that you might be having of these themes that we talked about: imagination and joyful states and forgiveness or understanding or defeatist attitudes or any of those things, right? Could be coming up because it's personalized in some way. So you all have it somewhere. I even do. I can't get away from it. I have Chiron in Pisces. I think it's the only thing I have in Pisces, on my 8th house, which is a house of death and rebirth, regeneration. So there's a lot of spiritual themes that pop up in terms of my life for transformation. This is a huge transformational day. I can't remember what your chart looks like, but you're Scorpio, are you not?
Sorry, what was that?
You're a Scorpio, right?
I am.
Right.
Your
So
memory is amazing. When I think of all of the people deal with and all of those charts, and you've picked up the fact that yes, it's Anaya's birthday in 2 days here in Australia, and you remember that I'm a Scorpio. Wow.
right. Well, it's just, it's a hazard of the job I do, right? I said I remember these things. They're important. So you in some way are also being affected. I'm not sure where that puts it in your chart, but Scorpio is a water sign. So that means there's a flowing of this water between Pisces and Scorpio, and maybe whatever you have in Cancer in your chart, that is creating an ease into maybe some of these things about higher power or intuition. Maybe your intuition is on overdrive because
Right.
of that. And that's distinctly possible because, the energies pull from each of the signs. The other thing is, if you are someone who has Pisces but no planets in it, Pisces itself still has ruling planets, both Jupiter and Neptune. So we could look at, well, where's Neptune? Well, Neptune is transiting through Pisces. So you're being affected by that transit of Neptune in Pisces. And then where's Jupiter? Well, Jupiter's also in Pisces. So hello, your Piscean house is definitely being shaken awake by the planets in transit. So we all have that in our chart somewhere.
Right. Yes. So with that comment, you're speaking to everybody who
Yes.
is watching this. Yes, we're all being affected.
Yeah. So I didn't want people to think, oh, this is only about people who are Pisceans.
No, that's right.
No, it works for
That
everybody.
was That was something that I have gleaned over our time together, Janet. Yes, we have a specific star sign. However, we have a little bit of everything in us,
right?
in our chart.
A little bit of star chart in a little bit of the stars in every one of us. Now,
Yeah.
if we, look at this through a different lens, let's say we look at some of this stuff that's happening through the lens of human design, which is giving us just a different, a more energy way of looking at it. This particular transit of, or this new moon was occurring up in a gate called the Gate of Doubt, right? Gate of Doubt. And hold on, I'm going to check and make sure that I'm saying that the correct way, because I just realized I didn't check that this morning, but I'm pretty darn sure I'm right. Of course I'm right.
Yes.
It's the Gate of Doubt. And the Gate of Doubt is, it's in the head center. So if you guys know your human design, it's the very top center. And that particular center is partway in the body, but partway out in spirit, right? So it acts like an antenna, if you will, or an antenna dish that is attracting to you and to your experience things that are going to bring up, in this case, doubt or doubtfulness, or the need to be able to be discerning. So that is a big energy in terms of our minds, because we can start to doubt ourselves. If I'm talking to someone about something, they start to doubt their own wisdom. Let's say you and I are having a conversation and I'm telling you, no, you're wrong. This is the way that this is going to work. And then you begin to doubt yourself, right? You doubt your own wisdom, you doubt your own knowledge, you doubt your own knowingness. Then that's the wrong use of this energy today. But if instead I step back and I say, well, in my experience, this is how I've looked at this, then it gives you the access to discernment, so that you can say, I've not had that experience. In my experience, it's been this way. This is what works for me. So we can open up an understanding between one another rather than shutting down one another. So in human design, this is a gate where, yes, the trigger, the doubt might be suspicion, and it's turned inward at ourselves. But the real truth is for us to become more discerning about what we're hearing out in the wider world. So we get that sort of brought in for us via the sun and the moon. And then when we talked about the Venus, Pluto, Mars conjunction going on, they're sitting at a gate that's the gate 60. This gate is down on the root center. So it's a pressure center, much like the head. The head is a pressure center too. So the doubt, that wanting to answer those questions like how and why and when, pressure us, right? And the gate that Pluto and Mars and Venus are sitting at the root center, that's also pressuring us, but it's pressuring us to change. That is the big pressure that the Pluto, Mars, and Venus coming together are at. And they're prompting us, in this case, to become innovative, to be more inventive. But at the beginning of anything new is a seed of chaos, right? So if we all agreed on the planet today that we're no longer going to have war, that we're only going to live in peace, that's going to take some time. Right, that there's going to be some chaos there, as if we had the ability to just say, this is it, today's the last day we have war, we're erasing that word from our, well, that would be cancel culture, we're erasing that word from our dictionaries, and we're only going to live in peace. The chaos, I mean, that would be an innovation that would be huge, an impact on the world. But there's a chaos, trouble in the beginning of any major change. So Pluto, Venus, Mars coming together says that whatever it is that you're transforming in your life may take some time to come into being. Don't give up. Right? If you're wanting to change your life to more positive thinking, let's say, don't give up today because you walked in the bathroom, saw your hair and went, oh my God, that's terrible. Right? don't give up, right? It's going to take time to reset the clock to be able to really enact what it is. So here in the bigger, wider world, then some of the bigger changes that we want to make, let's just look at climate change, for example. That's a big change, that consciousness shift that's going to take to be creating a world that's more sustainable, that that looks different than it does right now, that then is going to take time to impact the climate, because it takes time. That doesn't mean that we should give up tomorrow because it's a super hot day or a super cold day and the climate's going up and down. We can't give up, right? So don't give up. Keep going. Keep your focus on what you are creating, that what you desire, with an open mind and an open heart to it coming in to you in many different ways, so that you don't cut off the universe from bringing it in some kind of surprising, beautifully juicy way. And we'll see the change happen. It just takes time. Big systems don't change overnight.
No, so it's patience, and it's also being aware of the little steps and being grateful that, yes, I can see it might be the tiniest little change in myself, but yay, I've done it.
And then if you focus on the success in that little tiny change, that will lead you to the next step in that change, to be able to see that and go, wow, I am making progress. It's like when you go to lose weight, right? You lose a pound and maybe you're like, whoa, okay, that pound came off pretty easy. And maybe the next day or week you get on the scale and you've lost 3 pounds and you're like, wow, that's amazing. So, but again, those are things that take time to happen, right? It takes time. So don't give up. That's a message that's being given to us. Mercury and Saturn are delivering a completely different message right now, and that's about revolution. I'll just leave that one there. Revolution.
Was that evolution?
That's
we are evolving.
Again, evolution. Here we change again. Here we grow again.
Revolution, yes.
Yeah.
Interesting world for this time, because I do believe that is what is happening. You know, people are standing up and saying, this is what we want. This is what we deserve.
There's that too. Deserving. Right? So many more things I could say, but I know I just looked at the clock. We're out of time, but I hope everybody got an idea of what this time is bringing us to, though. The potential, the high side in all of this is that we can start to model through our own behavior and through the things that we choose what it is that we want to see in the outer world. So start here first, right? And then things begin to work outward from you, kind of to change the world around us.
Beautiful, beautiful, Janet. See, there's so much inspiration and hope there.
Sometimes you have to go looking for it, but yeah, right?
Yeah.
We can find it. It's there within us.
Well, to go back to the simple things too. I picked some beautiful roses the other day and they were buds. And this morning, I realized they have bloomed absolutely beautifully. Oh. And I can be looking at this flower arrangement going, oh my goodness, how gorgeous is that?
Right? Simple pleasures, the simple things. And then that breeds more of the same, right? Like attracts like. So when you're in beauty and you're seeing beauty and you're seeing how beautiful something is, it attracts more of that appreciation for beauty, and or appreciation for the simplicity of a rose, or the color, or the smell, the fragrance of a rose. So focus on what we want. Let go of our focusing on the things that we don't want.
Well, that's a very simple, profound comment to leave us with this morning, Janet. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're very welcome. It's always my pleasure to be here with you and share all of these fun things.
Well, and it's my pleasure to have you here. as with our audience. And as we're saying goodbye, everybody, may I remind you, these shows should never replace your legal, medical, nor professional advice, nor your own sound judgment. If you'd like to reach out to Janet, please visit her website, which is living-or-astrology.com. Remember that Janet comes to us on Facebook Mondays and Fridays every week. Now that's American time. So
right, 8 a.m. Pacific Coast time.
Yeah, it's Tuesdays and Saturdays. And then today, the occasional Wednesday, which is our Thursday. If you missed this morning's show, just go back and watch it now.
You can do that. Indeed.
I look forward to being with you, Janet, next month, and I look forward to being with everybody else next week when Marnie Perlin will join me.
Nice.
Much love, everyone. Let's put our best foot forward. Bye.
Take care, everybody.